Today, we are diving right into the middle of a high-stakes war for the future of AI. We're talking about four tech titans: Anthropic, Google, AWS, and Microsoft Azure. And they are all locked in this incredible battle to dominate the brand new market for managed AI agents.
Look, if you've ever tried to build a real, stateful AI agent from the ground up, one that actually remembers what you talked about and can handle complex jobs, then you know it is an absolute operational nightmare. Seriously, the engineering challenge of just managing the security, the state, the execution loops, it's monumental. So the real question is, who is actually stepping up to make this easy for enterprise teams?
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about why we're suddenly in the age of agents. Then we're going to profile each contender one by one. Anthropic, who we're calling the architect; Google, the governor; AWS, the pragmatist; and finally, Microsoft, the consolidator. And at the end, we'll pull it all together in a final decision matrix. So why this huge shift, and why now? Well, by Q2 2026, the whole market is pretty much expected to have moved on from just using standalone models. It turns out that building the underlying infrastructure, that agent harness, is just way too expensive and complex for most companies to handle. So the cloud giants are stepping in to manage all that back-end plumbing, which finally lets developers get back to focusing on what actually matters: the business logic. Okay, let's kick things off with Anthropic. With their new Claude managed agents, the company is making a massive strategic pivot. This is huge. They're going from just being a model provider to becoming a full-on foundational infrastructure platform. And their goal? To cut the time it takes to deploy an agent from months down to just a few days. At the heart of Anthropic's strategy is this really insightful idea they call the meta harness. The best way to think about it is like an early operating system that abstracted away all the messy details of the hardware. This design is built to outlast any single AI model and its weird little quirks, creating a foundation that's actually built to last. This meta harness is basically built on three clean, decoupled layers. First, you have the brain, that's the thinking part, powered by their Claude models. Then you've got the hands, which is a totally secure, isolated sandbox where the agent can actually execute code and use tools. And finally, there's the session, which acts as its memory. And this design is clever because it solves for some really annoying model-specific flaws, like what developers used to call context anxiety in older Claude versions. Now, the pricing here is a hybrid model. You pay the normal token rates for the AI's thinking, plus a flat fee of 8 cents per hour for every single active agent session. Now, that might not sound like much, right? But imagine you're an enterprise running hundreds of these agents 24/7. That runtime overhead can suddenly become a really significant operational cost. But here's the friction point. This is where things get tricky. Despite that really elegant infrastructure, developers are reporting that the underlying Claude models can still be, well, volatile. Even with this perfectly designed harness, the agents sometimes just go off the rails, ignoring direct instructions for no reason they can explain. And this really gets to the core challenge of orchestration. The recent leak of Anthropic's internal Claude code project was so revealing. It showed an agent trying to juggle 40 different tools at once. And when you're relying purely on probability, the chance of just one little failure happening grows exponentially with every new tool you add. The math on this is, well, it's pretty scary. Okay, next up is Google, and their strategy feels like a direct response to that exact risk of orchestration chaos. For Google, it is all about control. They're leveraging their incredibly deep infrastructure and data ecosystem to offer something that big enterprises are desperate for: unparalleled governance. This isn't just a feature for them, it's a core philosophy to replace probabilistic hope with deterministic policy. So this govern pillar in their Vertex AI agent builder is the direct answer to the problem we just talked about. It gives administrators a central place, a registry, to pre-approve exactly which tools the agents are allowed to touch. This stops what's called agentic sprawl, rogue agents popping up everywhere. It enforces compliance, and it makes sure every single agent has a secure, auditable identity. And on the pricing side, Google is being super competitive. For their latest Gemini models, they're using this context-aware structure. The price per million tokens literally doubles once your input goes over 200,000 tokens. So what does that do? It creates a really strong incentive for developers to be more efficient and thoughtful with their prompts. And it's interesting, while some developers on the front lines find a user experience a bit fragmented, the enterprise architects, the people managing the big picture, they consistently praise GCP's clean organizational structure.
They see it as a huge advantage for keeping things sane at a massive scale. All right, now for Amazon. Their strategy with Bedrock is pure pragmatism. It's a move that plays directly to their biggest strength as the undisputed king of cloud providers. See, their goal isn't to build the single best AI model, it's to be the best place to run any model. They're offering this massive menu of choices to their enormous built-in customer base.
AWS's pricing for agent memory is a really interesting contrast to the others. Unlike Anthropic's flat hourly fee, Bedrock is all about granular, consumption-based pricing. You pay for exactly what you use for storing new events, for long-term storage, and for every single time you retrieve a memory. It's a totally different way of thinking. And for the finance teams out there, this next part is an absolute game changer. As of April 2026, Bedrock allows for 100% of costs to be tied back to a specific user or role. In big companies, trying to figure out who spent what on the cloud has always been a massive headache. This feature allows for precise chargebacks to different departments, something every FinOps team dreams about. But here it is, the classic AWS trade-off. You get this incredible, unparalleled security by running agents inside what's called a virtual private cloud, a VPC. It's basically your own private isolated bubble on the cloud. The flip side? Configuring all the permissions, the infamous IAM headaches, to let that agent securely talk to other services can be just unbelievably complex. And that brings us to our final contender, Microsoft, the great consolidator. Their strategy with the Azure Foundry platform is the classic Microsoft play. They want to create a massive, all-in-one ecosystem that's designed to capture and lock in huge enterprise contracts. It combines everything: model access, agent runtimes, data connectors, compliance tools, the whole shebang, all in one tightly integrated suite. And their pricing model really reflects that all-in strategy. Microsoft is completely breaking from the pay-as-you-go approach. Instead, they use these things called agent commit units, or ACUs. Basically, they're prepaid credits that heavily incentivize these massive upfront financial commitments. You pay a lot upfront, and you get a pretty big discount in return. This whole approach leads to a completely polarized reaction in the market. I mean, you couldn't find two more different opinions. IT admins and compliance officers, they absolutely love Foundry. They see it as secure, production-ready, one single interface. But the developers and DevOps teams in the trenches, they often find it completely overwhelming, and they report issues with SDK stability and huge gaps in their automation tools. All right, we've profiled all four of these massive contenders, so now it's time to bring it all together. Let's put them side by side and see if we can help you choose your champion in these agent wars. So when you look at it like this, you can see each platform has a really distinct philosophy, right? Anthropic gives you this elegant abstraction for super fast deployment, but you're wrestling with model reliability. Google offers that iron-fisted central governance, but the developer experience can feel a bit disjointed. AWS gives you ultimate choice and security, but at the cost of that insane configuration complexity. And Microsoft gives you the whole enterprise-ready package, but it might just overwhelm your dev teams. But just when this landscape seems to be settling, a whole new battleground is emerging that could change everything we've just talked about. It's not just about features or price anymore. It's about security. And this became terrifyingly clear with the discovery of Anthropic's Claude Mythos, a frontier model that showed it could autonomously hack into highly secure computer systems. And that, right there, brings us to our final critical question. As the power of these agents skyrockets and the risks escalate right alongside them, the very definition of the best platform is changing right before our eyes. So at the end of the day, are you going to choose the platform that's the smartest, the one that's the cheapest, or the one that is fundamentally the safest? The answer to that question is going to define the entire next era of AI.